So I'm Spegtacular. I'm here with Max Porterfield, CEO of CLLXF Mines. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah,
You're the guy.
I'm the man.
If you don't mind, could you tell my audience basically who you are, what you do, and what CLLXF Mines actually is?
Absolutely. So my name is, again, Max Porterfield. I'm president and CEO of CLLXF Mines. We're a base and precious metals explorer with focused on key Canadian mining jurisdictions in Canada, most notably in northern Manitoba outside of a small town called Flin Flon. And we've assembled a team that I head up and kind of spearhead forward collectively. That's found 3 of the 4 largest mines in this small town's history. And we've on our mission to save the town because the big flagship mine's shutting down this May. And so we hit one of the highest grade copper deposits in the world, candidly, and not just in Canada, but on a global basis in 2020. And we've been drilling it out ever since with the long-term goal to have a viable mining operation for that community.
Very interesting. Now, on my channel, Max, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the YouTubers and the silver stackers and the gold stackers, but we preach a lot about stacking and holding precious metals in our hands. This goes a little different, of course. Now we're relying on you to excavate this stuff out of the ground, right? To find this stuff, to discover this stuff. So, what is the importance of, let's say, copper? Because I don't talk about copper a whole lot. Like, what is that? What's going on with that stuff?
I know, so certainly in terms of exploration, and not to dive off of that, but you have to find it in the ground to get it out of the ground to be able to stack it on wherever you want to put that, and that's a nice chunk right there.
A little chunk of copper. It's not expensive stuff, but it's very important.
It's very, very critical, yeah. And so, in our discovery, aside from just copper, we do have gold, silver, and zinc as byproducts. But in terms of copper, they call it Dr. Copper because it's really the bellwether for the global economy. It's the building blocks of the global economy. If you're looking at in terms of electrical grids, infrastructure, you need copper. In homes, it's heavily relied upon. Electric vehicles is a big new demand driver for copper. It's always been a demand driver for copper, candidly, but even more so with the EV revolution taking place. So it's one of the most consumed metals in the world. It is a base metal, and it actually is hitting all-time highs. So I might not have the price action in terms of the value that gold has. It plays an absolutely critical role into the world and is at very, very low supply with big demand drivers moving forward.
I would venture to say that all of our electronics, anything that we're using right now to talk to one another, there's copper in that.
That's right, because any metal it's used for its physical rock property. Quite simply, copper is a great conductor, and it's not as expensive as gold. So that's the rock property that makes copper so unique, is its conductive nature. Transferring electricity, storing electricity is one of its key strengths, which is why it's utilized so readily around the world. They call it base metals for a reason, because again, it's the basis of a lot of things that you utilize and you take for granted in the world.
Right on. First, real quick, Max, we're going to talk about your company, and because it does offer shares and stock to people that want to invest in it. I mean, that's kind of what we're here for today, I believe, to kind of let people know about what CLLXF Mines is and see if they want to invest. I want to say that I'm not a financial advisor. Max, are you?
I'm not a financial advisor. No, I just run an exploration company.
You're the CEO, you're the guy. And I think, Max, you could probably agree with me that everybody should always do their own research. I'm going to give plenty of that information down in the description of this video so people can click and see your website. They can see your ticker symbols at a glance, which we're going to talk about here a little bit more. But I just want to establish that briefly, that, do your own research, of course. Now, you say you're based out of Canada?
Yeah, I reside in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm actually born and raised in South Texas and immigrated to Canada in 2012. So I became a dual citizen. So I kind of straddle both sides of the border in a unique way.
And CLLXF Mines itself is based there as well.
Yeah, we're based we're headquartered here in Vancouver, and our key discovery is in northern Manitoba, which is essentially a straight shot up from Austin, Texas.
Now, with everything going on in the world, let's say politically, is there anything that's potentially going to help or hurt going on politically Calnex mines?
Well, I think politically, the world's shifting very, very dramatically in many ways. I think we can all agree upon that. And with that being said, I think there's called the Five Eyes, really the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand are really going out there to make sure that they get those resources in hand for the future for driving these economies moving forward. I mean, you can't put mandates that all vehicles need to be electric by a certain date without having a supply source to that. And if you look at the global mine supply out there, a lot of it comes from geopolitically risky jurisdictions, like Latin America, where you can have, changed rule of law with the government. There's oftentimes issues with protesting at the mine in terms of the workers and the rights and what have you. Then also, if you look at some of the highest grade copper mines in the world, they're really a bulk of the highest top 10 copper mines in the world are located in Central Africa and the DRC. And I've had the pleasure of going to the DRC to actually visit the mountain gorillas. But I would tell you, it wouldn't be a place I want to set up an operation from a business perspective. So geopolitical risk associated with mine supply at a really critical time where mine supply has had a lack of investment over the past decade. We have increasing demand from new demand drivers like electric vehicles that are being mandated by these government policies as they look to meet their goals, we'll call it that, of how they view the world, in addition to infrastructure spending. And the One Belt, One Road initiative in China is an infrastructure plan the world has never seen before. And I know both the previous administration and the current administration has been really looking to push forward an infrastructure bill because, again, the infrastructure in the United States was built up during the 1950s. A lot of it really post-World War II, which is what got America back on its feet after World War II, was infrastructure. It's big for job creation. When you spend money on infrastructure, it's job creation for 20 years. And so I think it's going to be critical moving forward, and having a geopolitically stable source of mine supply of these critical metals is key. And I think we stand out to benefit from that.
Right on. You guys are discovering zinc as well. I mean, that's part of the process as a byproduct, or is that kind of a focus as well?
Well, I mean, our key focus is when you hit the deposit's called Rainbow, and it's one of the highest grade copper deposits in the world. But what's unique about Flin Flon, Manitoba, the reason why they've had 32 mines and been producing for 100 years is because they're known for the high grade polymetallic deposits. And when you have a polymetallic deposit, if you have a bad year in one commodity or one metal, you're getting multiple revenue streams off that same deposit. So at Rainbow, it's a copper gold dominant deposit. It also carries zinc and silver as byproducts. And then in the Maritimes, we have a deep portfolio of zinc lead assets, particularly in Nash Creek in New Brunswick, our New Brunswick portfolio. And looking at today's zinc prices at $1.65 zinc, which is near all-time highs, that asset alone, based upon a 2018 preliminary economic assessment, has a $240 million net present value. So
Gotcha.
we do have a deep pipeline of assets outside of Rainbow, but my life's focus, candidly, over the past 7 going on 8 years, is to find a new anchor mine for this community. Because when you really align your interests with interests of the greater good, and I'm a big believer of this, you're going to do really well for yourself. And our goal collectively is always to find that next anchor mine. And right now we're in the process of drilling that out. And so we do have a deep pipeline that really backstops. There's a lot of value in those, but our focus is going to be on Rainbow, which is the name of the discovery, just outside of Flin Flon. Because again, just to talk about that real quickly, we're talking about a town of 5,000 people. So if anybody lives in a small rural community, they can maybe kind of correlate to that. I was born in West Texas, in Odessa, Texas. My family had been impacted by the oil bust, being that West Texas is dominated by the oil industry. So I seem to have a tie to Flin Flon for that reason. And this is a town of 5,000 people that have 785 direct jobs tied to that mine. And those jobs are going down to 50 jobs by next year. And there's no new mine. So that's what we're trying to do, is really leverage off the existing infrastructure in that town, and also have a clean supply source for these metals that the world's in critical need of.
So you're building jobs then?
That's my goal. That's why I wake up every day. That's my passion. Inherently, is to help people. So yeah.
You seem like you're too young to be a CEO. Are you just deceptively, young? I mean, what's going on here? How are you a CEO of a big company?
I became CEO at a much younger age, so I was just past 30, and the world works in mysterious ways many times. But I really had an opportunity to meet a mentor of mine named Mike Maslowski. He was the founder of CLLXF. He's a member of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. He's a geologist by background, and he saw potential in me at a young age to lead this organization, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity. With that being said, I've learned by surrounding myself by the best of the best people, which is why I mentioned earlier, we assembled a team that's found 3 of the 4 largest mines in that town's history, and have got accolades, the world over, in many regards, for those discoveries. So it's not just myself, but it's I have a knack for getting people to focus on the greater vision, and the vision's to save a town of Flin Flon, Manitoba, and doing so at a really critical time for these metals in the super cycle we're in.
Your stock is CLLXF, is that right, for the OTC markets?
Yes, OTCQX, yes.
And then you have on the Canadian exchange, is there another symbol?
CNX.
CNX. Now, I would say that this stock has had a really good run previously. It came up significantly. If you were in there at that time, man, you were doing really well on this stock. Now it's had a pullback recently. Now, is it a good time, you think, to get in here now, or should we wait?
Well, I mean, I think it is a great opportunity right now to take a look at CLLXF, particularly its valuation, because believe it or not, we're worth less today than we were when we hit Rainbow originally. And that's really just a function of the metals market and how metals equities have traded over the Q4 of last year, and then going into tax loss selling. One of the key things that's impacted us, based upon COVID, I don't like to think that COVID or anything really gets in our way, but it is assay results. So to that end, when we entered 2021, we just had 3 holes into the discovery. So oftentimes when you look at a mining or exploration company, they'll have an old deposit that might have been found in the 1950s that's really being re-looked at in a different way, or told a new story about. Rainbow is a brand new discovery, and we started that with 1 drill hole, and we spent the bulk of last year, again, starting with 3, and we ended the year with 71 holes into the deposit area, because you need to put regular spaced drill holes to drill out to see how large the deposit is underground, and kind of get that verified before you go into resource modeling and be able to put out compliant, saying there's X, Y, Z amount of copper in the ground, gold in the ground, silver in the ground, zinc in the ground. So with that being said, again, that's what we're focused on, and we've been dramatically delayed by the assay laboratory. So while we've had great contractors with the drillers and our team on the field, where we've had a deep pipeline that's gotten lagged was from assay results. So we've only had an opportunity to put out assay results on half the drilling that we did last year, basically. So that's one of the things I think that can have a big impact moving forward, is that as we're able to release those assay results. And really, it's like a biotech stock. A biotech stock goes through research and development to clinical trials, and that's how they increase their valuation. And with the exploration stock, when you're having a discovery, you de-risk the asset and you add value by confirming what's there and showing what's there, and that's through the drill results. And so we've got a lot of drill results that have yet to come out. I think that's one of the reasons the stocks come off a bit. And then aside from that, we have a vision not to just find another, one rainbow. We want another one. And we've already been working on vectoring to that with drilling off to the west of Rainbow, where it's located in a great area. And then we did a big survey to the south using the same tool set that we used to discover Rainbow. Because what we did is, Albert Einstein once said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And what we did is we brought a new technology that hadn't been readily utilized in this particular area. And that's what led to the discovery of Rainbow. Now we were expanding that. So I think this is a year of not only expanding Rainbow, but also expanding the discoveries the company has. And that's the next goal for the company as well. Aside of drilling out this deposit, it's hitting another one in 2022.
Okay. So long story short, it could very well be a good time to get into CLLXF now during this dip.
Yes, absolutely. I would definitely look at the stock on any pullback if you believe in the company.
Yes.
based on the valuation and the results coming out of the ground. I think if you, in terms of context, when you do your own due diligence on the company, the average mine grade of copper around the world is 0.5%. And that comes from these big open pit mines, predominantly in Latin America. And the highest grade copper mines, which is you need over north of 3.75% copper, not including the gold, silver, or zinc as byproducts, come out of the DRC and the Congo and other Central African countries. Everything that's coming out of Rainbow to date that we've announced has exceeded 4% copper on average, but also has gold, silver, and zinc included in that. And there's also hydroelectric power. And so as the world shifts away from the hydrocarbon, oil and gas with these electric vehicles, you need these base metals to build the batteries, and store it, and move the electricity and all that. And when you're doing that, you got to keep in context, how clean is the Tesla if the Tesla is mined by a big low-grade operation that's really energy intensive, and your power source is a coal-fired plant, right? So that's where I believe we're going to stand out, is not only our impact on the direct community and where we're looking to achieve on the supply chain and the millions of products that eventually the product can go into when we're successful, as we drill it all out, but doing so in an environmentally friendly way. The whole world's shifting to that. I think we're going to be standouts because of that. So when you kind of keep on what we're doing and what our objectives is and what are the results to date and where we're headed, I definitely think that we've got a great opportunity ahead of us.
Right on. Appreciate that, Max. Are you an investor yourself?
Yeah, I'm a big investor relative to my net worth is primarily tied to CLLXF. And I'm a big believer that you've got to believe in yourself, right? And I'm a guy that, if I'm going to bet on myself, I'm going to bet to where make it worth my while. So candidly, yes, I am quite a large shareholder. I own just under 5% of the company. My family is also a big proponent of my career, and they see my vision. They're supportive of that. So they're very large shareholders as well, because this is more than just a job for me. This is a passion, and this is a goal that I really have a commitment to. So I'd be concerned if I wasn't invested in it, and candidly, I'm invested in it because I believe in it, and I know I can dictate my own future. And when you control your own future, you want to make a win for yourself. That's how all entrepreneurs become very, very wealthy for themselves and their shareholders. They position themselves to do that. So I am positioned absolutely to be rewarded for all the work that I've put in with the rest of the team over the years.
Well, I believe that's how, sorry to name drop him, but Elon Musk became the richest man in the world by investing in himself. He believed in his company so much, and that price went crazy on the stock. And so it's a good idea to invest in yourself if you believe in yourself, and you do.
Yes, I do.
Right on. As somebody that's outside like me looking in, do you have any questions for me as somebody that may potentially, want to get involved in CLLXF mines?
Yeah, I guess my question is, do you currently have any allocations to base metals? And if not, why haven't you?
So physical, or are we talking miners?
Miners. I think physical base metals is hard to store. But
without name dropping, yes, I have, and I've done very well on a majority of them. There's been one or two, and typically when the price comes down, like you mentioned on the physical stuff, on the spot price, everything in that sector kind of suffers a little bit. But I've been very happy with my positions in the miners. Very happy, I'll say. And then what I do with that money typically is I'll pull some out, not all of it, maybe I take the rewards off the top, and then I'll get myself some physical, to keep that part of my investment going. So yes, I am. Do you get into to the physical at all, or you just you pretty much want to stay with your company and focus on that because that's a big part of your life?
Well, no, I mean I do have coins, so absolutely I do have metal. Actually, I mean in terms of physical copper, I have a copper plated motorcycle in the background there. I don't know.
Wow. Jeez.
So I do buy my physical in different ways. But in terms of physical copper, I don't stack physical copper, but certainly do have exposure to some gold and silver. I do think it's prudent to have precious metals both in the physical as well as the equities. That's just something I learned very young in my career. that's been paid off. So absolutely, I do have physical, maybe not as much as the stacker, so to speak. But trust me, I have big exposure into the metal space by inherently the company that I operate in, the position I have in my company that I run.
Right on. That motorcycle's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, I would never recommend like really stacking copper, because you're talking this, bar right here. A bunch of these would just drive you crazy on space, and it's only worth a couple bucks. I mean, copper is pretty cheap, so I'd rather invest in a company that's finding that stuff and mining that stuff. What's your proudest moment with CLLXF so far?
The proudest moment was discovering Rainbow. I had an opportunity to be there at the drill, which is something that typically doesn't happen in a lot of people's careers. Oftentimes they're in office when there's an intercept, but I wanted to be there, and I had an opportunity to go out to Flin Flon, and it was at the drill when we hit the discovery, and that's obviously the proudest moment in my life to date, from a professional standpoint, and certainly my next proudest moments when we hit the next one. So it was definitely being there, because that's a very unique experience. When you hit exceptionally high grade copper, you can see it come out of the ground, and so that's something I'll never forget. And, I guess it'd be like hitting an oil discovery on an oil rig, but metal.
Yeah, I think that's cool to look at. I've never actually seen like the raw stuff in person, like that, like just a big vein of all kinds of different colors and metals, and I bet that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and when you hit the high grade, you can see it. Chalcopyrite, is 1/3 copper, which is the sulfide that hosts the copper, and it's orange, and it's also made up of pyrite. So when you have pyrite, chalcopyrite, and sphalerite, you can't miss it, because imagine pyrite is fool's gold, right?
Right.
And so when you go from some black altered rock, and then bang, you just hit this beautiful bright orange copper. And I mean, every time I hold it, I don't have a piece with me today. I really need to have one for when we get on these different types of conversations here with me at my office. But I just get super excited. I can't explain it. It's probably like you holding that gold.
It feels good. It feels good.
I mean, I don't have a baby yet. And my dad, I tell you, when my dad asked me, he's like, well, how do you feel before I went to Manitoba? Before my flight to go out there, when I in my heart, I knew we were about to hit this discovery. And I said, well, I'm single and I've never had a child, but I would imagine I feel like I'm about to have a child. And I've never had my own child to hold, but I know that there's that instinct when people get their proud, or they're really proud when they hold a child. And my face lights up when I hold a piece of through the rainbow, candidly. And I mean, I'm just talking about it, I get really happy about it. So, it's just an incredible opportunity. I'm just so grateful that everything's coming together for us.
I think when you do these interviews, Max, you need to have like a big chunk that you just hold up. You know what I mean?
No, we have some, but we're actually attending a conference today, tomorrow, and so we're displaying this really nice polished core. So I'll definitely have it a piece back. I just don't have one right now because I've given it as a loan back for the show that we're doing. But no, I definitely I do have a couple pieces that I keep around, and I'm looking forward to doing the next one so I can keep those discoveries around too. So it's a really cool thing. I mean, in terms of a collector's item, to say that you went out and discovered a deposit, and how unique the deposit is and the impact the deposit has the potential to show.
Here it is.
Here it is, and it's like the coolest momentum you could ever have dreamed of. It's just something I'm incredibly proud of, and I'm just very, very grateful guy, because you take a lot of risk in your life, and exploration is a very risky business. And I think aside from just conversationally, when they tell you the odds of finding a mine are 1 in 4,000, targets become an operating mine. It's a very, very challenging business because of that. But I'm also a big believer, if you don't believe you're going to succeed, then more than likely you're not going to succeed. And I think Steve Jobs is one of the famous quotes that he said, the only people that are crazy enough to do big things are people crazy enough to think that they're going to do it. So I'm very, very grateful that we stuck with it for so long, because it wasn't an instant thing. Again, it took 7 years of my life in the team's lives. And that's a lot of brain power and thought that went into how are we going to make this discovery, and just sticking with it. And to stick with it at such a key time for that community is what I'm most proud of, right? I mean, it's one thing to have, find something. It's another thing to find something when there's jobs on the line. We're talking, over 785 direct jobs, and then all the indirect jobs around the mine, and then the supply chain that impacts, right? It's just enormous. And so when you can have that impact on the world, it's an incredibly great feeling, right? And that's why I wake up every day, and that's why everybody wakes up, and gets to work, even if they're tired or things hadn't gone exactly like we planned. Because listen, you're gonna have bumps in the road, and trust me, I've had my fair share of licks. But getting up, dust yourself off of it. And again, it's just like the American culture, the U.S. culture, and Canadian culture is to, when you get knocked down, you get back up, right? And that's one of the things that you can say is really unique to the United States and where we grew up. I take a lot of pride for being from Texas. You just don't knock us down. We're very independent people.
That's awesome.
So, resiliency is something that I'm very, very glad I was taught and how I was raised.
With everything going on, here we go politically again. The peaceful protest that's happening in Canada right now, does that affect you guys at all? Or are you guys working around that entirely?
No, I mean, the protests don't impact us. I think that, not to get political, but I think you need a balance. And so I think for far too long, particularly in Canada, the balance wasn't there. I think the balance is definitely there in the United States, with different states thinking differently. And that was kind of drowned out here. So the truckers standing up and speaking on how they believe is critical, because that's what's part of balance, right? You need the yin to the yang, and you only had a yin, you had no yang. So I'm glad to see some yang coming to Canada. I spent a lot of the pandemic candidly in Texas. I felt much more free being in Texas. And that was really predominantly for my mental health, right? And I'm a type of guy that just keeps moving. And I don't ever really seem to stop, even if I'm hurt or sick or anything like that. I'm really waiting to get back in the game, so to speak, and bounce right back up. So it doesn't slow us down. No, it doesn't slow us down. Has there been issues with, trying to get supplies for certain things? Yes, there isn't anything that we haven't overcome. From our contractors have done an excellent job on making sure we had anything that they needed to do their work. But as an exploration company we're really research and development driven. So the team is all located and works off their computers, dealing with the big data sets that we get, and the data comes from the field, the laboratories, and what have you. And so we really are able to be unimpacted on that.
Anything that you can think of in the horizon that's not here yet, but it could, any day come out that would really impact your stock price? If they made some kind of announcement like we have to have all battery operated vehicles tomorrow, what would that be that could really spike that stock price?
Well, I mean, if they came out and put some kind of regulations on the supply of copper and base metals, and the cleanliness around those, I think we'd stand out even farther than we already have. I think that you already had the U.S. actually came out and made zinc put zinc on a critical metal list. And with that being said, copper is just as critical, because I'll tell you, one thing has been a lack of investment in exploration, because you need higher prices to incentivize exploration. And believe it or not, over 80% of exploration dollars go to gold, right? And listen, I love gold, but we're talking about the utility factor of gold from, moving electricity, cars, your lights, all that's very, very critical. And so when you have a lack of investment in the supply chain, the politicians don't understand. It takes on average from discovery hole to production 7 years. And we feel like we have an opportunity to fast track that, given where we're located. We're not remote. We're by the hydroelectric power line, 30-minute drive from the town that already has the facilities there. And that's a huge reclamation liability as well, because the reclamation liability to clean up that mining operation is been slated over $320 million. And so if they can defer that, it'd be really great for everybody. So again, government policy is a precursor to change. That was something else I was taught very early, and you got to watch government policy. And these mandates, like if you go look at platinum prices, platinum's obviously, more for jewelry, but what really rocketed platinum was the catalytic converter in cars. When all cars needed a catalytic converter, well, they needed a little bit of platinum, and platinum was in a tight supply, and you had a big move in platinum prices. And you look at the base metals, particularly in both copper and zinc, but copper in particular right now, your demand is outstripping mine supply. It's not like you go out there and recycle a bunch of copper, it corrodes. And you have that all taking place when they're adding demand drivers and giving a finite timeline, saying, oh, all electric vehicles need to go by battery, all vehicles go to electric vehicles by 2030, 2035. That's not very far away.
Right.
And you're already at a big supply constraint right now because you hadn't had that price action in the commodities price that incentivized exploration, right? To take that risk. I mean, it's a challenging business. So when you had a lack of investment, you don't have the supply that can come online as much. And I think we're really in the perfect storm if you're in the copper business right now and the zinc business. And then it's a secular bull market for base and precious metals, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right. Do you have anything that you would like to talk about before we end it? Any questions for me? Anything you want to announce or talk about?
I would just say I would really appreciate if everybody's interested in to follow the story, follow CLLXF. We have a lot of news pending. Obviously, as I mentioned, all the assay results that we've been waiting and been delayed on from the laboratories are going to be due out in the near future. And then targeting for the new year as we get back to work, which will be more news flow coming out with everything that we're doing as we continue to advance our long-term goal of creating long-term job creation through discovery.
Off the record, Max, I have never put my face out there for the general public before. So if I release this, I'm going to leave it for you. Do I blur myself out? Maybe just put my hands, which I normally do for my channel, or do I keep this? Up to you, Max.
I mean, I think you're a good-looking guy,
Wow. Hey.
I mean, you resonate with people, right?
CEO said it. I mean, you have to be right.
Yeah, I think, people connect with people.
Yes.
Right. And that's what the world's lost, is the connection to other people, particularly in Canada. It's really devastating when I go out and I see people's mindsets where I live, where no one's on the street. I go to a lunch, I go out. I'm a guy that goes out. I go out to eat lunch, and there's 3 people in the restaurant. And this restaurant used to be slammed, 50, 60 tables, and there's no one there, right? And so people like people, and people connect with people, and that's my recommendation is be who you are, at the end of the day.
I like that. Yeah, I'm actually from Florida, so you mentioned that you went to Texas and you've seen that freedom almost that we have always had. It's still there in Texas. Same thing here in Florida. We just go out and we just hang out. There's everybody at restaurants. We just act like it's nothing going on in the world right now.
I had the same experience. Actually, I was in Florida last year as well. I got to see it. I was really impressed by that. It was booming in Florida. And same thing with Arizona. I went to Sedona and Phoenix last year, Vegas, to see a friend of mine that I work with. And so you can see these pockets of people's mindsets and how impacted they are. And, I would say definitely people's reactions and behavior patterns in some of these states that are more, we'll say, cautious about what's going on, is in a much different mindset than places like Texas, like Florida, certainly. Again,
just to let everybody know who you are, Max Porterfield, CEO of CLLXF Mines. Sir, I greatly appreciate you being on here with me. Everybody needs to come to the website, check out your website, do some further investigating research. You've done many interviews, haven't you, with other YouTubers? You can see all those interviews, and you might get some other information from Max. And it sounds like a really good opportunity right now to get involved in CLLXF Mines as a person looking to invest and some stock, it seems like a good time. And you've had that wonderful time before. I think we're going to be on that again. And like you said, everybody's trying to go greener right now. The entire world, not just Canada and the United States, the world needs to go greener. They kind of are all in agreement. And the metals that you're mining is what that does. I mean, it helps out with everything we're talking about, going greener, going more clean energy. And I think it's a good time too, to get involved with CalNex Mines.
I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much, Max. And if you ever want to come on again, I'd be more than happy to get you on here. And if you got any news you ever want to talk about, then always invited.
Absolutely. I really, really appreciate you having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate it.